At the time of recording this video, WordPress powers around 43% of the web, so it really shouldn't surprise anyone that it's one of the more appealing targets for hackers compared to other platforms with a fraction of the users, practically a rounding error in comparison. Yes, WordPress is indeed far from dead, despite what some pockets of communities on Twitter might like to say, or X. I honestly still don't know what we're calling it these days. And this popularity is largely also why the concept of securing WordPress usually comes up in the same sentence as talking about WordPress itself. But there is tons of misinformation out there, which, even if shared with good intentions, still leads people to take the wrong steps to protect their sites from being at risk. We're here to change that. Well, I'm here recording this video as a no BS guide to securing WordPress for you, and you've made the wise choice of clicking on this video. So, let's go.
Okay, let's go.
Before we dive into the steps you'll be taking to protect your site, it's helpful to understand why your site might be targeted in the first place. In other words, where it all starts. Why would hackers attack your sites to begin with? This is a tightly held opinion I see come up in communities all the time. People thinking things like, I just have a simple site that doesn't even process any financial information. Why would hackers attack your agency site or a site for a local small business? The reality is you don't need an e-commerce site that can process payments, let alone a high traffic one, to be an appealing target for hackers. Simply put, attackers don't handpick sites. They choose sites based on plugins they have installed, meaning vulnerabilities, as opposed to things like business size or other parameters. Now, if you're wondering why I said choose in air quotes like it's 2015, that's because they don't really choose sites at all. There aren't lists of any kind. Attackers don't have the time to waste compiling lists, only to then decide which sites they're going to target. Instead, they launch attacks against as many public IP addresses as they can. And if they find a vulnerability, they're in luck, and the owner of the site, on the other hand, would be out of luck. Long story short, attacks are completely automated and targets are not chosen. Thanks to the beauty of the WordPress ecosystem, there are a good number of plugins out there that are running on hundreds of thousands, if not millions of sites. While the WordPress core code is subject to frequent reviews, plugin codebases are almost always not subject to the same level of scrutiny. Just as a quick side note, my comment about plugins running on hundreds of thousands, if not millions of sites, is not to suggest that running plugins that are less popular is better. Not at all. In fact, generally speaking, you benefit from going with developers that have a good team and a commercial level of support for their product because they do make money. So, quick primer on why you might be targeted, complete. Now on to the next part. Why does it matter? I'll keep this part even shorter out of respect for your time. After all, I really doubt you've made it this far in a video about securing WordPress without caring about the effect of getting hacked and caring about preventing it from happening. But if you did, congrats, you have a great attention span. So just in case, here's a taste of why your site being exploited is problematic. Number one, being hacked can tank your site's traffic. Search engines don't like sending users to sites that show signs of being exploited, and recovering is not easy. Number two, when existing customers discover that a business they work with has been attacked, this can also have a significant negative brand impact. Number three, ransomware. Waking up to an email or your site saying you need to pay the attacker or they'll destroy the site you've built. Number four, malware and data theft. If you process payments, attackers could intercept the connection and steal your customer payment information. Number five, redirecting visitors occasionally as they navigate your site in such a way that makes it hard to detect, which ultimately leads to the issue sticking around for longer before you realize and start working on a fix. And number six, fines. Breaches of customer data can result in fines under data protection laws like GDPR, CCPA, and various e-commerce payment processing regulations I won't bore you with. And more, especially if you haven't taken the necessary security precautions. Now, onto the part you probably really came here for. What should you be doing to protect your WordPress websites? Because, in case I haven't already made it clear enough, operating under the assumption that I'll be fine, I'm only running plugins built by reputable developers and use Cloudflare in front of my site, so it's super unlikely that something will happen, might cut it for small brochure sites. But if we're talking about what we would call a money site, whatever that site may be for you, in short, you're working with customer data and it makes money that supports your livelihood or the livelihoods of your clients, your current approach is more like the absolute bare minimum. If you want peace, prepare for war. It's more helpful to think of cybersecurity like a Swiss cheese model. Not the good kind you want for your raclette night, but in the sense that security has multiple layers. You can never just have one method to keep you 100% safe. And all the precautions you take mean absolutely nothing if your company falls victim to a social engineering attack that grants an attacker admin access to your hosting and or WordPress sites directly. Each layer has flaws, some human, which if aligned will allow an incident to take place. The three primary layers to consider are number one, the network layer, number two, the server layer, and number three, the application layer. Layer number one, protecting your network layer. This is the first layer your incoming traffic will hit. You should rely on a good network layer security tool like Cloudflare to help you mitigate DDoS attacks, filter out bot traffic, force SSL and TLS encryption, and ensure all traffic is only able to make requests over HTTPS. Cloudflare is a great tool for this as it can do all of the above before traffic hits your origin server, which is what you want. They also have an extremely generous free tier. Your server shouldn't have to process any requests originating from bot traffic. However, firewalls from services like Cloudflare, when security levels are raised, can block legitimate visitors from accessing your website. Layer number 2, the server layer. You'll want to rely on WordPress hosting that provides the following services. Number 1, server configuration and isolation. If you work with a hosting provider that does not properly isolate different servers they sell, shared hosting is frequently a culprit here. One server being attacked can also lead to the rest being compromised. Number 2, server-side malware scanning. Do not rely on any plugin-based malware scanners. These are typically the first to be tampered with in an attack. Instead, get hosting with server-side scanning included. And number 3, regular backups. While the purpose of this video isn't to make hosting recommendations, and we'll likely have a dedicated video on this in the future, here's a quick aside on choosing hosting. There are 3 levels of hosting: self-managed, mid-level managed, and managed hosting. Managed hosting is the most expensive. Self-managed hosting requires a bit of technical expertise. Mid-level managed is ideal if you're not too comfortable with the technical side of hosting. So if you fall into category numero uno, self-managed, go with RunCloud. There are a bunch of other copycat server management platforms, but RunCloud has earned their stripes. You'll see that quite quickly if you try others out, but I'm here to save you time. And if you're looking for something that's easier to manage and really doesn't have much at all to configure, WPMU Dev is an all-in-one-esque platform that includes a lot of things. Nexus, a part of the Liquid Web group, is also a good general choice. And DreamHost, another more affordable one, is a great general purpose choice as well. And then of course you have WordPress.com, also great for people who really just want WordPress at a great price and aren't as interested in all the frills. They really just want great value for money with lots of other services including. You get the idea. With hosts at this level, it is somewhat you get what you pay for. At the managed WordPress hosting level, and yes, while some of the above choices in the mid-level category call their plans managed, I wouldn't group them into category number 3 of managed hosting, but that's something for another video. If you're looking for a true managed host that knows performance, scalability, and security, your best bet is ServeVault. They're one of, if not the actually only host that is doing anything worth noting on the performance and infrastructure side for WordPress. Most other hosts are just good at marketing, but their underlying infrastructure doesn't live up to anything. Come to think of it, the full video of this topic is going to be a really fun one to produce as well. Layer number 3, the application layer. The application layer, your plugins, themes, and custom-built functionality, is the most important because it is where the most frequent changes occur. Especially in WordPress, many changes are untested, and this is also where access is most given to others, editors, authors, and other user roles. As such, the decisions you make to protect layer number 3 will have the biggest impact on the overall security of your WordPress website. Here's how to protect your application layer. Choose the right WordPress stack, meaning choose your plugins and themes wisely based on the following. Number 1, functionality. More plugins means more complexity and more entry points for bad actors. Choose plugins that stick to their specific purpose and don't try to do everything at once. Number 2, code quality. Code that is well maintained and documented is less likely to include bugs and security vulnerabilities. Number 3, security practices. Plugins should have a security point of contact and should release patches without delay. If they're a part of a managed vulnerability disclosure program like PatchStacks, that's also a big plus. And number 4, reputation. Choose trusted developers who are active in providing support and are involved in community discussions. And don't just rely on plugin developers. Developers can't always issue an update in time, and you may not be at your computer the moment a vulnerability is discovered and starts getting exploited. This isn't just about their credibility or developers not being skilled enough. We also have to remember they are humans at the end of the day. As much as programmers may not seem like they are, they do have human tendencies. So, maintaining one plugin might not be the only thing they have on their plate when they wake up to a vulnerability report. To curb this problem, you should use PatchStack. They're the world's largest disclosure of vulnerabilities. In other words, if you want a chance at being protected from vulnerabilities, they're your best bet. They also run the vulnerability disclosure programs for popular plugins, including the official Lightspeed caching plugin for WordPress. PatchStack minimizes hackers' chances of exploiting your site with the help of virtual patches that are applied to your site automatically without changing code or disrupting performance. Over 40% of websites that run on WordPress have at least one plugin vulnerability at this very moment. The application layer is the weakest link by far. In addition to this, you should enable two-factor authentication. At minimum, all admin accounts should require 2FA to be enabled, and only grant admin access to people that really need it. Just because you have someone joining your team that you trust doesn't mean you need to prove that to them by giving them full access. The less people have access, the lower the risk. This is something known in cybersecurity as the principle of least privilege. Wrapping things up with a bonus method, there is also protecting your WordPress admin area with Cloudflare's Zero Trust tooling. This is a more advanced method for sure, but it is one that we are finding ourselves rolling out more frequently. We will be putting together a full guide on how to set this up, but in short, Cloudflare, a great company with great products, have a product called Zero Trust, and you can use it to protect your WordPress admin and related pages. The result of this would be that whenever someone on your team wants to log in, they will have an extra step to bypass the Cloudflare Zero Trust checks. This slows down the initial login, but it is incredibly worthwhile for sites that people will annoyingly frequently try to target, reset passwords for, and so on. Not all sites have the luxury of using this method, so if you run like a WooCommerce store, for example, and you let customers log into your store, you can't really use this method because that login system is powered by the same login system that powers your actual admin login. So you would have customers going through the process that really only your internal team can go through using Cloudflare's Zero Trust tooling. I hope you enjoyed this video on securing WordPress. Thank you for joining me today. And for more just like this, please hit subscribe and we'll catch you in the next one.